Pakistan admits that India's most wanted terrorist Dawood Ibrahim is residing in Karachi, proscribes 88 terrorists including Daoud, Hafi, Saeed and Masood Azer in compliance with the list issued by the UNSC. India rejects the reference to Jammu and Kashmir in the joint press release of the second round of China-Pakistan Foreign Minister Strategic Dialogue, says it's an integral and inalienable part of India and we expect the parties concerned to not interfere in the matters that are internal affairs of India. Prime Minister Modi convenes meeting to discuss ways to boost the toy manufacturing in India. The Prime Minister says that toys aligned with Indian culture and ethos should be used as pedagogical tools across all the Anganwadi centers and the schools for all-round development of the children. Home Ministry asks all the states to ensure there is no restriction on interstate and intrastate movement of the persons and goods, calls such restrictions a violation of the Home Affairs Ministry guidelines, impacting supply chains and disrupting the economic activity and employment. India crosses a crucial milestone in the fight against COVID-19, tests more than 10 lakh people in a day. The recovery rate rises to nearly 75% across the country, with highest ever single day peak of 63,631 recoveries, taking the total to over 22 lakh recoveries. In international news, nearly 24 massive wildfires continue to ravage parts of California. The fires have incinerated nearly 700 buildings, spreads over 1 lakh acre. Several houses in the area burnt down by the fire. 14,000 firefighters have been deployed to douse the blazes. Hello and good morning. You're watching Doordarshan News with me, Nancy Kohli. A top story: in an effort aimed at wriggling out of the Financial Action Task Force's grey list, Pakistan has imposed financial sanctions on 88 banned terror groups and their leaders, including Hafi Saeed, Masood Azer and Dawoud Ibrahim, by ordering the seizure of all their properties and freezing of the bank accounts. The Paris-based Financial Action Task Force had put Pakistan on the grey list in June 2018 and asked Islamabad to implement a plan of action by the end of 2019, but the deadline was extended later due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The Pakistan government has issued 2 notifications on 18th of August announcing sanctions on the key figures of terror outfits such as 26/11 Mumbai attack mastermind and Jamaat Uddawa chief Hafi Saeed, Jeshi Mohammed chief Masood Azer and Underworld don Daoud Ibrahim. Pakistan has ordered the seizure of all the movable and immovable properties of these outfits and individuals and the freezing of their bank accounts. Now, these terrorists have been barred from transferring money through financial institutions, the purchasing of arms and also travelling abroad. Daoud Ibrahim, who heads a vast and multifaceted illegal business, has emerged as India's most wanted terrorist after the 1993 Mumbai bombings. The notification lists various addresses of Daoud Ibrahim in Karachi. Earlier, the Pakistan government had been in fact delaying and not denying the whereabouts of Daoud Ibrahim. The notifications announced sanctions on key figures of terror outfits such as Jamaat Uddawa, Jeshi Mohammed, Taliban, ISIS, Haqqani Group, Al-Qaeda and others. And though various sanctions were in place against almost all of those listed by the UNSC, the Pakistan government, through the new notifications, has consolidated and documented the previously announced measures. It is believed that the latest move by the Pakistan government is part of its efforts to wriggle out of the grey list of the global money laundering and the terror financing watchdog, the Financial Action Task Force. Now, with Pakistan's continuation in the grey list, it will be difficult for it to get financial aid from the IMF, the World Bank, the ADB and the European Union, and also in fact further enhancing problems for the nation, which is in a precarious financial situation. And if Pakistan fails to comply with the FATF directive by October, there is every possibility that the global body may put it in the blacklist along with North Korea and Iran. And let's now go across to our correspondent Amritpal Singh to get more perspective on this. Amrit, good morning. Pakistan has for the first time acknowledged, the presence of these terrorists on its soil. And of course, this is happening to avoid the FATF blacklisting. But what would your assessment be, as far as its sincerity is concerned, Amrit, Pakistan's sincerity is concerned, because it is often under question what this development would really mean?
Well, you are right in reading it as Pakistan trying to wriggle out of the FATF action, which is imminent, and which, if they do not, continue to take action against terrorist operations happening from its soil, and the FATF, which is a Paris-based organization, continues to scrutinize the country's actions. So it is basically the move is a part of it seemingly fulfilling its commitment to the FATF to take action against terrorist activities and money laundering that happens from its soil. What it means is that on paper it means that Dawood, Ibrahim, Zakir Rahman, Lakh, Maulana Masood, Azer, these people who are part of the 88 individuals and organizations which they have declared in its own list as terrorists. They'll be under an asset freeze, a travel ban, and an arms embargo, which will be as per the UN Security Council's designations. But now what we need to see is that if the Pakistani counter-terror authorities do follow through on the order and add these names from the UN listing to their own national terror listing, and do actually take action to prosecute them, to bring them to book, and if they follow the SRO, the statutory regulatory order to designate these terrorists and take action against under the NACTA, Schedule 4 of the Prescribed Persons of the National Counter-Terrorism Authority of Pakistan. Do they put them on their own lists and then go through run the whole course?
Yes.
So that remains to be seen.
All right, Amrit, and what would you assess in terms of this playing out now globally? Because, pressure on Pakistan has been building more than ever from across the world to act on terrorists operating from its soil. And many would now argue that he's not been put on Pakistan's national terror list, like you also mentioned. So how are you seeing this, playing out, panning out across the globe in the near future?
I'm sure the world will be very, very closely watching. And India will do its part by raising this issue at various international fora where terror comes into sharp focus, and saying that the sham that Pakistan, or the hogwash that Pakistan does to fool the international community. But I think the world will be very closely scrutinizing, especially the FATF, when it comes up to in October. But the only ray of hope now, or the silver lining in this thing, is that finally after 29 years, the Mumbai blasts accused Dawood Ibrahim is now at least they've accepted that he owns properties in Karachi. He has 5 passports, though they've called it misuse. So that seems a bit of obfuscation, because they have been, giving various statements, though there were notifications of 2015 and 2017, which did make a slight reference to that. But if they do follow that up, then they'll have to give him to the Interpol. He's a wanted terrorist in India. So at least they're calling Dawood Ibrahim a terrorist now.
Absolutely. All right, Amrit, thanks very much for joining us for the moment and putting these developments into perspective for us. Thanks very much. And let's also now listen in to what the BJP spokesperson Shahnawaz Hussain had to say on Pakistan's admission of guilt.
पाकिस्तान ने जितने गुनाह किए हैं उस पर मजबूरी के तहत वो ये मान रहा है। अगर वो मजबूर ना होता, आतंकी देश घोषित होने के करागर पर ना होता, अगर नरेंद्र मोदी जी की सरकार ने पूरे दुनिया में अपनी कूटनीति से पाकिस्तान को घेरा ना होता, तो पाकिस्तान आज स्वीकार नहीं करता कि दुनिया में जो बड़ा टेररिस्ट है जिसने मुंबई ब्लास्ट करके बहुत से लोगों की जान ली वो पाकिस्तान में छुपा है और पाकिस्तान की आईएसआई आज तक उसको पालती और पोसती रही है.
And India has categorically rejected the reference to Jammu and Kashmir in the joint press release of the second round of China-Pakistan foreign ministers' strategic dialogue. In a response to a media query, the External Affairs Ministry spokesperson has said that Jammu Kashmir is an integral and inalienable part of India and the country expects the parties concerned to not interfere in the matters that are internal affairs of India. He also reiterated India's consistent position on the so-called China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, the CPEC. The ministry spokesperson also said that India has repeatedly conveyed its concerns to both China and Pakistan on the projects in the so-called China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which are in the territory of India that has been illegally occupied by Pakistan. He said India resolutely opposes actions by other countries that change the status quo in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and calls on the parties concerned to cease such actions. And once again, let's go back to my colleague Amritpal Singh. Amrit, so once again, India categorically, that rejection coming in from India once again as far as discussing any matter vis-a-vis Jammu Kashmir, calling it, interference of the internal affairs of India.
Absolutely. I mean, this was on expected lines. This has been India's consistent position, Nancy, that Jammu and Kashmir is an integral and inalienable part of India.
Absolutely.
India expects and has repeatedly raised this with Pakistan and China that please do not nationalize this. People have no locus standi to speak on this. This is a part of India. In fact, India went to the length of telling both China and Pakistan through this statement or through this reaction that, what they call CPEC or the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor actually runs through territory which we consider as a part of India and which is in illegal occupation of Pakistan, which is Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. And therefore, those any activity or any economic activity on that land without India's consent is totally illegal. So this has been repeatedly conveyed to China, to Pakistan, and Pakistan is bound by its commitments to India, be it under the Simla Agreement or the 1999 agreement that Jammu and Kashmir, India is ready to discuss, but that remains a bilateral issue between India and Pakistan. India will brook no international interference or any third-party interference. And so clearly when the foreign ministers of Pakistan and China meet for a strategic dialogue, they have no locus standi to issue any kind of joint communique regarding the status of Indian Jammu and Kashmir.
All right, Amritpal Singh, thanks very much for joining us and sharing those inputs. Thanks very much. And moving on now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi held a meeting with the senior ministers and the officials to discuss ways to boost manufacturing and the global imprint of Indian toys. Prime Minister Modi said India is home to several toy clusters and thousands of artisans who produce indigenous toys which not only have cultural connect but also helps in building life skills and psychomotor skills among children at an early age. He also said such clusters should be promoted through innovative and creative methods. Highlighting importance of toys in molding a child's mind, Prime Minister Modi said toys aligned with Indian culture and ethos should be used as pedagogical tools across all the Anganwadi centers and the schools for the all-round development of children. The Prime Minister even suggested that youth should be engaged to come out with innovative designs and toys that can instill a sense of pride towards national goals and achievements. Prime Minister Modi noted that toys can be an excellent medium to further the spirit of Ek Bharat, Shresth Bharat and exhorted that toys should reflect India's value system and culturally established environment-friendly approach. He also suggested using tourism as a tool to promote India's culture, especially in the regions which are renowned for handcraft toys. Prime Minister Modi also emphasized the need to organize hackathons for youth and students for innovations in toy technology and design, including online games, to reflect the Indian ethos and values as well. And laying emphasis on fast-growing digital gaming arena, Prime Minister said India should tap the huge potential in this area and lead the international digital gaming sector by developing games that are inspired from Indian culture and folk tales. And moving on now, the Home Ministry has asked all the states to ensure there is no restriction on interstate and intrastate movement of persons and goods. The Home Ministry has called such restrictions a violation of the Home Affairs Ministry guidelines impacting the supply chains and disrupting economic activity and employment. India's three-pronged strategy of test, trace and treat is proving to be a success as far as battling COVID-19 pandemic is concerned. And one tangible outcome of this strategy is that the fertility rate has dropped to 1.87%. India has also crossed a crucial milestone in the fight against COVID-19. Test more than 10 lakh people is happening in a day, and the Arogya Setu team meanwhile has worked on a new innovative feature which is called Open API Service. Let's find out more.
Keeping to its promise of exponentially increasing the daily COVID-19 tests to 10 lakhs, India crossed a significant milestone in its fight against COVID-19 on Saturday. In a testament to the determined, focused, consistent and coordinated efforts of centre and state governments, India conducted more than 1 million tests in the past 24 hours. With 10,23,836 tests done, India achieved its resolve to test 10 lakh samples daily. With this achievement, the cumulative test count stands at 3,44,91,073. India achieved another milestone as it recorded highest ever single-day recoveries of 63,631 in the last 24 hours. With this, the recovery rate has reached 74.69%. This has also led to declining case fatality rate, which stands at a new low of 1.87%. India's total recoveries now exceed the total active cases of 6,97,330 by more than 15 lakhs. The record high recoveries have ensured that the actual caseload has reduced and currently comprises only 23.43% of the total positive cases.
About 4 or 5 weeks back, I had promised to the country that within 12 weeks we shall be doing 1 million tests per day. And today I am so happy to announce that yesterday, when we are almost 6 weeks away from the milestone that we had set for ourselves, we have already done 1 million tests yesterday.
Continuing with upgradation of the infrastructure in fight against COVID-19, Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan inaugurated an all-weather 10-bedded makeshift hospital in New Delhi on Saturday. The hospital has been constructed by CSIR's Central Building Research Institute in collaboration with NDRF to strengthen the nation's fight against COVID-19. At the same time, the Union Minister assured that work on corona vaccine is progressing at a rapid pace in India.
3 vaccine candidates are already in the clinical trial phases, 2 in the phase 1 and phase 2 trial, and the third one in phase 3 clinical trials. And I hope that in the next couple of months we should successfully complete these trials, and once we have discovered an effective, successfully implementable, useful vaccine, we shall certainly ensure that India procures those vaccines and we start giving them to our most vulnerable people.
At the same time, the centre has asked the states that there should be no restriction imposed on interstate and intrastate movement of persons and goods and services during the present prevailing Unlock 3 guidelines. Meanwhile, in the fight against COVID-19, the Arogya Setu team has worked on a new innovative feature which is called Open API Service. In order to help businesses and economy to start functioning while being safe, the Open API Service enables organizations to check the status of Arogya Setu and integrate it. The Open API Service of Arogya Setu addresses the fear or the risk of COVID-19 infections and help the people, businesses and the economy to return to normalcy. The Open API Service of Arogya Setu can be availed by organizations and business entities who are registered in India with more than 50 employees, and they can use the service to query the Arogya Setu application in real time and get the health status of their employees or any other Arogya Setu user who have provided their consent for sharing their health status with the organization. With inputs from Tapas Bhattacharya in New Delhi, DD India.
And shifting focus now, in Uttar Pradesh, 132 new villages have been affected by the floods in the last 24 hours. 16 districts including Ayodhya, Lakhimpur, Azamgarh and Balia are reeling under the impact of the floods. NDRF and the SDRF teams have been deputed on the directions of the Chief Minister. Around 1,900 shelters for the flood victims have also been set up in the state. 1,17,597 food grain kits have been distributed so far. 1,063 boats are engaged in rescue and relief operation. Besides that, 784 flood camps have also been set up in the state. 288 mobile health teams are on duty. The administration has directed the district magistrate to monitor situations in the flood affected areas. Let's go across now to our correspondent Ashutosh, who's joining us from Lucknow this morning. Ashutosh, good morning. The situation there pretty grim in the state of Uttar Pradesh, and rescue relief operation going on a war footing. What can you share with us as far as the flood situation that's panning out in the state is concerned?
गुड मॉर्निंग नैन्सी, जिस तरह से हिमालय की पहाड़ियों में लगातार मानसून के जाते हुए बारिश हुई है, जिसके चलते नेपाल के तमाम जलाशयों में पानी इकट्ठा हो गया, वहां से पानी छोड़ा गया, जिसके चलते गंगा, घाघरा, राप्ती और सारदा नदियां बिल्कुल उफान पर हैं, जिसके चलते 14 जिलों में बाढ़ का जबरदस्त प्रकोप है। घाघरा, बाराबंकी के एल्गिन ब्रिज और बलिया में तुर्तीपार में खतरे के निशान से ऊपर बह रही है। राप्ती नदी गोरखपुर के बड़घाट में खतरे के निशान से ऊपर है। बूढ़ी राप्ती ककरही में, सिद्धार्थनगर में खतरे के निशान से ऊपर है। लगभग 14 जिलों में प्रभाव पड़ा है इसका। बड़े पैमाने पर प्रदेश सरकार ने बाढ़ राहत कार्य चलाया है। कल विधानसभा में उत्तर प्रदेश के मुख्यमंत्री योगी आदित्यनाथ ने कहा कि जिस तरह से हम कोरोना की चुनौती से लड़ रहे हैं, उससे भी कहीं जोर हमें लगाना पड़ रहा है। बाढ़ से लोगों को बचाया जा सके, उन तक राहत पहुंचाई जा सके। और बाढ़ की ये विभीषिका जो है लगभग हर साल, खासतौर पर जब नेपाल से पानी छोड़ा जाता है तो उसके बाद घाघरा, राप्ती एकदम तूफान पर होती है। इसके चलते सैकड़ों हेक्टेयर फसल बर्बाद होती है। बर्बाद हुई फसलों का मुआवजा देने के लिए भी मुख्यमंत्री ने निर्देशित किया।
All right, so floods there unleashing its fury and causing extensive damage to people and of course livestock as well in the state of Uttar Pradesh. Thanks very much, Ashutosh. We'll keep tracking all the developments with you through the day to day. And the flood situation in Bihar is also still critical. All the flood water has receded from many areas of North Bihar. However, some new areas have been hit by the floods of the river. At present, over 83 lakh population of around 1300 panchayats in 130 blocks of 16 districts of the state are facing the wrath of floods. The water level in Buxar, Digha and Gandhi Ghat is above the danger mark. Additional teams of the SDRF and the NDRF have been sent to Buxar and Bhojpur. The Bagmati river is above the danger mark at Karchuna, Beniabad and Hayaghat, while the Budi Gandak river is flowing below the danger mark at Sikandarpur in Muzaffarpur. More than 5,000 people have taken shelter in 6 relief camps in Khagadia and Samastipur. The process of sanitation has been sped up in the areas from which the flood waters have receded. The Met Department has forecast generally cloudy sky and sporadic rain in most parts of the state for the next 2 days. Let's get an update from Salman Haider from Patna. Salman, the situation there pretty grim in Bihar, especially North Bihar, that continues. What's expected today and tomorrow?
Actually, Nancy, the situation is easing out in North Bihar, as you already said. But due to rise in Ganga river, the threat of flood has increased in Munger, Ara, in Bhojpur and Buxar. So the Ganga is continuously rising there. In Buxar, it is 12 centimeter above the danger mark. In Digha, it is 25 centimeter, and at Gandhi Ghat in Patna, it is 26 centimeters above the danger mark. So as far as the situation is concerned, 11 more panchayats have submerged in these areas.
Yes.
Taking the total to 1,333 panchayats in all.
Right.
So the situation is still grim. Even as we are talking, the heavy inflow of water,
Okay.
heavy discharge from Gandak barrage is coming into those areas. So the situation is really grim right now.
All
at
right.
present.
All right,
Yeah,
Salman.
Nancy.
Okay. All right, Salman, thanks for those inputs and thanks for joining us. And moving on now to some international news. Well, a massive wildfire in Northern California has grown to become the second largest in the state history. Nearly 24 devastating wildfires continue to ravage parts of California, fueled by high temperatures and lightning strikes. The blazes have scorched nearly 1 million acres forest. At least 6 people are killed and nearly 700 buildings have been destroyed since the beginning of the lightning storm last week. Over 14,000 firefighters are deployed to contain the blazes, while the containment of the largest one still remains low. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of the news. Thanks for being with us.